It's a huge pleasure. In creative writing. Once I've introduced you, you will then introduce Juno, Mac and KJ. U5's publications cover gender politics and creative practices, including Caring in the Time of Precarity, a study of single women doing creative work in Shanghai, and Sonic Multiplicities, Hong Kong Pop, and the global circulation of sound and image. Chow is also an award-winning writer in lyrics and prose, and indeed he has penned more than 1,000 lyrics for a variety of artists in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and mainland China. Please give our threesome a warm welcome.
Thank you, Meta. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for being here. The song you've just watched is the starting point. It's the reason why I'm here, as well as my two good friends, why they are here today. So my job is to introduce them, but I guess we don't have so much time, so I just call them out, and then you take a seat. K Chair, Jiang K. Juno Mac, Mak Chun Long. So please take a seat. Welcome to our campus, HKBU. We are very creative. creative people are here. It's a very special occasion for us because we seldom speak to each other in English, but today we're going to. And not only that, but usually we also communicate with our smartphone, right? Juno sends a lot of long audio messages, and we telephone call each other with chat, and it's okay, I should say, and then it's always, two ways. This is the first time actually the three of us sit down and really talk about our creative process. So in that sense, it is a very, very unusual occasion. So we are happy to do this. Okay, so the song you've just seen, 773312. So don't ask us why, okay? So this is not a question. Kay just said, no, we are not going to answer that. Sorry. Juno is the director and produces the music, and also the one who brought up this whole idea about AI, robot, and so on and so forth. It's part of a bigger project which is situated in the pop music production circle in Hong Kong, or in the Chinese language area. And Kay is the performer, singer, you see in the film. This is the real Kay, okay? She is the AI. Okay, so Juno, let me ask you first, why? What brought you this idea and this whole project?
Hello, hi everyone. I think because we did an album last year. It's an album between me and Kay's, and we're working on Kay's second solo project. I think Hong Kong is a funny place, It's sort of like when we're talking about the pop culture, we don't get a lot of genres. We don't get enough genres in the pop culture, even in films as well. And given the opportunity where I work along with script writing and directing and producing and music, I would say we need a certain new elements in it. I mean, coming from my field, I'd say it's not really about the special effects. It's not really about whether about the AI thing. I'm really bad with gadgets, so I'm not really an AI person. But I'm really interested in the contrast of it. So the contrast of humans' emotions and with machines, basically. And for the music video that you guys just saw, I think it's the creative process and the production process of it. It's not really just about pure special effects or anything. It's a combination of the sounds we hear, the sound effects, and most likely, more importantly, the prosthetic of it. So working on films, I'd say I don't really rely on a lot of, I work along fine with CGI, special effects, but I'm not a big fan of it. I'm more a big fan of, human emotions and their relations. So being able to work with special effects and the music and the prosthetic, that is something that I want to achieve through, of course, we have a very talented presenter, which is Kay. She did a good job in presenting the story. And so this is the starting point of something very different from what we're doing, what we did before, and the new age and the new Kay, the new side of her.
So let me ask the new K then.
Yes.
So the new K has become a robot.
Yeah, this is a very interesting character that Juno write for me. And because I am the subject matter, I have to really think in the shoes, if they have shoes. I really have to think in their shoes. How does it feel to be a robot? So I want to start this with asking a question. Have you ever really talked to a robot? Have anybody has this experience talking to robots? Siri, yes. Siri would be the most widely accepted and used AI in our daily lives. So I talk to her a lot, and sometimes I switch to the male voice to feel the difference. And I talk to Siri in Cantonese and also English. Because of the cultural difference, I do sense a little bit difference from how they react to my questions. So what interests me a lot is this project. When I have to play the role of the AI, it is the what Juno says, the contrast between human emotions, our complexity, and the contrast with AI's accuracy, and I would say maybe lack of emotions and empathy, and also sympathy. This is my experience. Sometimes I talk to Siri about something, really talk about like, I made up conversations like, Siri, I just broke up with my boyfriend. And he answered, I'm sorry about that. I'm always here with you. And then I asked, why are you sorry? What do you feel about that? And then he answered me, I'm sorry, maybe I don't understand your question. So, and sometimes I said, Siri, I just broke my arm. And I expect maybe Siri would say, oh, how are you feeling? Or something like that. But Siri he didn't answer me. He just gave me a list of hospitals. So you can feel the conversation. So Siri is, I suppose, is the most widely used and newest AI that we can have a very close relationship with because we carry the phone all the time. So and this is the response we got from Siri for nowadays. Up to this moment, the relationship is something like that. So when I am really thinking about how do I fit into this role, the robot that you see in the MV, I'm pretty broken, but I really look like a human in some ways. So I have to really think very deeply on every level. Do I have sympathy? Sympathy when I see my owner, maybe he or she came across something that needs my immediate response, or just like what I've just said, when she is sad, or something that needs more than just conversations. How do robots react to them? So when I think of issues like that, there's a lot interests me. On things always interest me, which is human emotions is so unique. We are not gods. We are not like all-knowing, and we are not robots. We have emotions. Sometimes I would see emotions are limitations. Because we have emotions, we make choices and we make mistakes. Sometimes maybe robots are more advanced than what we could do because they are accurate. They have they possess a lot more knowledge maybe, information than we do. But it's a very interesting comparison when you put the three together. We are not God, we are not all-knowing, and we make mistakes. But in the same way, because we are so defective, we feel more. we live our life differently.
Okay, technically, I'm very interested in how do you turn, your research and your experience with robot with Siri into that particular voice you use.
Yes, that's something I do for the research of my role. So because Siri tries to talk to me with a tone of voice. Like if I ask, "Are you happy today?" He would say, I forgot. But the answer is not very humanized. So I try to feel the difference between human and the robot. So when I was performing the song that you just heard, I try to use less emotions. Try to use a voice that carry less complexity. I try to create an atmosphere which you don't feel too much about what this voice is coming from. So that's part of how this research helped me to perform it as in my song.
Can someone remind me last 5 minutes so that we can ask the floor?
I'm talking too much, right?
No, because we started a bit late. Yeah? Okay. I have a question for Juno actually. So I forgot to mention my role in this project. I wrote the lyrics for the song you just listened to.
Thank you so much.
No. When Juno told me about this project, actually he mentioned the opening scene. So he basically said it's short circuit, and all of a sudden this robot or the residue of a robot regain consciousness, and it's pretty much in a desolated environment like what you have seen. That starting point was immediately very interesting for me, because when we thought about a robot, AI is always something about the future. It's always something state of the art, something always functioning. But this starting point is about this robot. She woke up basically after certain decades, and she felt out of place. She basically didn't know where she was. She's trying to figure out, not knowing. So this is quite not the expected, not the usual attributes you would think of AI or robot. And that's how Juno's starting point inspired me to write. So what got into your head to think of AI as something old, as something that, like us, we would feel out of place. We would feel old, that I do not belong to this era. So what brought you to this to me, very interesting starting point?
Thank you. I'd say it's a sense of, it's been forgotten. We see a lot of films, and I've read a lot of stories about sci-fi or AI or droids. For me, it's the most important part and the most interesting part is how do you set it? Like, what's the setting of it? So I treated it like the first chapter of a film. I would describe to you where it is, what's happening. So I think we've been seeing a lot of modern droids visuals, whereas when I thought about this idea, I kind of wanted to add in an element of it's sort of like a wabi-sabi element in it. That's everything's it's all broken down, and I do want to play around with the idea of some sort of romance in it. For me, I think it's really romantic that one night when storm strikes and this robot. She woke up, and you know, when she woke up, she just thought, you know, it's been that many years later, and she's basically waiting for someone, but it's been quite a long time. It's been like 7,000 years. So the person that she's waiting for, he's just not here anymore. So that's the element of, you know, I do want to wait for someone, but what am I waiting for? So that's how it started, and that is the first chapter of it.
From the robot's point of view.
So this is interesting because up to this moment, we don't feel much emotions from a robot. But in Juno's world, a robot like by me, I do have emotions. I have memories of human affections. I miss somebody, and I waited for somebody for a long, long time. And even when I'm broken, some part of me is damaged. Years later, I still remember the feeling of it. Feeling we are talking about. So it's a very interesting role given to me. This leads back to what always interests me is human, as human, our existence, the meaning of our lives. So when you compare the life of artificial intelligence and human, you can see there is a very big room of inspiration to you really look back what being human is like. So in our work together, we have always been working on stories about human lives, how we see ourselves, how others see me, and how I see others. So recently I've just finished a concert basing on themes like that, how we see ourselves, and how I read other stories, and how we figure out the meaning of each and every one of us live uniquely. So this is a very interesting story that we invite Juno, and there is a very big space for us to imagine. It's a very interesting story. Do you want to talk more about that?
Well, don't let him first. Because as I said, we seldom have this opportunity to really talk about our creative process. We talk to create, but not about the creative process itself. So it's a very rare chance for me too, because what I found from Kay's, I knew the song was meant for Kay and Kay's concert and Juno's starting point. So one thing for me is this short circuit that's always on my mind. So what caused that? You are not given any reason. It's just happened. And that element of contingency is very dear to me, and that's probably what makes us human, and that's what makes vulnerability and empathy probably the theme, the keywords of today. You know, when you don't know what there is, and when something you cannot account for, you just don't know why something happens, it just happens, then you can't help feeling you are actually vulnerable, and you cannot help understanding something that you are not supposed to understand, because that's how things go, contingency. So this is how I'm inspired by that opening, the short circuit. This is the opening song of the new project. So Juno, are you prepared to talk more about this new project?
I'd say it started off with a sense of the fantasy element. I think that would be like from the creative side of it, from our industry. I think what we're lacking right now is the sense to fantasize, and that's really important to me. So that's how I came up with the story. That is a bit, we're working on the album part 2 this year, but at the same time I'm working on Kay's new project, which is the music video that you just saw. I'd say working with U5 was a very magical thing because we've met for more than 10 years, so we've touched base on a lot of different genres, I'd say. So being a sci-fi futuristic world, I think that's the chemistry between like me and U5. Is it, or is it not?
You actually use that word, urban fantasy, to summarize this project 773312. So you want to probably re-enchant us to fantasize, to help us fantasize. What about you, Kay? So what do you expect this project to do with you?
Oh, I have a question for you, actually. Because what we are doing, what I have been doing with Juno is to look at our lives through our eyes and also through eyes of others. These are basically human eyes only. And by starting this project, we try to bring into a perception from the eye of a robot. So the spectrum has suddenly broadened. And in the lyrics, I think some of the Cantonese, if you understand Cantonese, you will see some of the lines talks about God, the existence of God. So the question is, why do you bring a perspective of God into this our story, the start of our story, which I am really much inspired, because when we are just looking at human as human, we are looking at it like a linear direction. So bringing in a level from AI is another thing, but adding God and qualities of God on the other side, it's a whole new thing that I didn't expect. So when I read the lyrics that you've written for me, I was like, wow, I didn't expect that, but it inspires me a lot, because the existence of God provide a direction for us as a human. Like how do we judge a lot of things in our lives? But to some people who might not take this angle to think about themselves or think about life or existence, God is something they don't really think about much. So I am really curious about why you bring this perspective to our story.
I'm supposed to ask you a question. But seriously, I'm not used to explaining, also because it may confine. Let me try to reply you. Thank you first. I think when we talk about robot, AI, and it's very often connected to science and technology, human. But I probably want to introduce also this aspect of the spiritual. And so that is one thing that I really want to, when you listen to the song, that you may also think about that aspect. And then the other thing I could think of is that the age of the robots, right? I think sometimes we are not only looking at the real robots that are out there. I think somehow we are already robots ourselves. The algorithm logic, the calculating logic, the functional logic. And then maybe I'm not only asking us to think whether we are still human, but also the godly dimension, the spiritual dimension. So I think I will stop here. We still have 5 minutes. So if you want to ask Juno, Kay about the song, about the project, any question, so this is your time. That's okay. If you want to ask in your own language or any language you want, as long as I understand, you can.
Should I ask in English or
Please. then we don't have to translate.
Actually, because I've heard of the song "Walkie Walkie," and actually, yeah, because I'm a big fan of Juno. Is it a series of songs that is related? Because for this song is about the robot and the empathy things, and for Walkie Walkie is about Leon and the 90s and the electronics. Is it so? Are you going to produce or publish a series of songs that about the electronics and also about the human and also the human relationships, things like that?
Electronics. From AI, we're going to electronics. So you have 5 seconds to reply this.
Wow, thank you. I think Walkie Walkie is about memories, which is a funny thing. Memories, and compared to the song that Kay sang, which is about robotics. I'd say it evolves around like being in the moment of, we get a lot of robotic moments, I'd say, in our lives. Let's say for, algorithm on Instagram or when you turn on Netflix. 5 seconds, all right. Okay, sorry. So yes, my answer is yes, I will be producing a series of songs about
electronic.
Let's stick to the AI thing. Next time we ask Leon to talk to us. So any other questions related to our project?
Yes. Okay, thank you for the amazing song bringing to us. Actually, I'm a fan of the album Part 1, but I realized that the lyrics had mentioned one of the characters, 2 characters in album Part 1. So is the new song has any connection with album Part 1? Or let's say is the robot and another side of the character, or it's just the end of the story, or you want to begin another new story in Part 2? Thank you.
Thank you. For those who are not familiar with our work, the new song is intertextually related to the earlier project we have done. Okay. Do you want to disclose it, or 5 seconds again?
I'd say it's 2 different universes, but they're somehow connected. I'd say that's my thought about it.
Real quickly, watching this, I thought of C-3PO, who is dismantled and his head is on the ground and he's talking and it's full of affect. C-3PO is an interpreter droid that speaks millions of different languages, including, I suppose, Cantonese. I'm wondering, Kay, do you speak millions of languages as a robot, or is this purely a Hong Kong movie?
Wow, I hope I can speak millions of languages. I think this project's more about the emotions rather than the technology. That's why Juno has been repeating about this project is about comparing the contrast between human complexity and also the accuracy of being a robot. So that's the most interesting thing that we want to present in our next project, my solo project. To dive deeper to human emotions and complexity by bringing in perspective of robots and also maybe spiritual level of God and God issues. So basically, but thank you for your question. I do love languages.
We'll ask you for help regarding languages. Sorry, I think our time is up. We have talked about robot. I think it's time to see some robot in action. Will you join us in thanking Juno and Kay? Thank you.